Okay, it's Thursday night again, and we are back with another deck idea. This one is a Starfleet deck focusing on the MACO subset of personnel. I've never played it in a tournament before, but I've ran into it a couple of times, and it wasn't a positive experience for me because I think I lost all the games I played against this kind of deck. So I tried to see what you can do with it. There are some strategies that look very promising, but the ratios are probably the most important thing here in order to have a steady flow of personnel. But we'll walk through this deck in a few sentences here in a moment. Right, let me just double check this. And this works too. Okay. All right, so let's have a look at the deck here. The setup is, of course, requiring us to have a means of playing alternate universe personnel. So the AU door is there, the QS tent is there, and I'm also going to use the Temporal Benefactor. If you don't know it, it's a card that lets you place a personnel from outside the game there. In this case, I'll use the non-aligned version of Jonathan Archer. And then this guy can broadcast his skills to people who he names in lore or whose lore includes the name of Jonathan Archer. So you sacrifice including a copy of Archer himself, but he has a very good set of skills: officer science, archaeology, honor, diplomacy, and there are a couple of personnel who name him in lore who will then benefit from his skills. What's important here, he's in play for uniqueness only. That means his affiliation of non-aligned doesn't apply, as if he wasn't in play at all. Just for uniqueness only means we cannot play another Jonathan Archer in this game. Okay, this is going to be a bit seed heavy because we're trying to have fun with it. So let's have a look at the missions first. And maybe just put a darker theme in the background. Yeah, it doesn't distract as much. So let's have a look. Already the key mission here, survival training in the sector 001 region. This is the lunar location, the headquarters of the MACOs. And if the opponent sees it, he knows that there can be a time location and that this is likely the starting point for a MACO deck. Of course, you can also throw it in as a decoy and have a different place from which you play your personnel and where you start attempting then. The other missions are ones that have the Fed icon because Starfleet has a way of attempting those. There's also one with the printed Starfleet icon, and there's another one. So we are looking at 535 pointers and survival training with 25. So clearly we are looking at a 3-mission win here, because the missions don't have a great overlap of mission specialist skills. We could go out of our way to include some non-aligneds, but with the ones that Starfleet has, there's an anthropology one, there's a physics one, and there's a medical one. We cannot put together a skill set that reliably gets us to 2 times 50 points just from mission specialist bonus points alone. Okay, what other seeds are we running? Of course, we have the MACO training camp, the time location from which we will play our guys. So this gives us 1 free play, so it must be a MACO. And it also has the added text of they may, if possible, relocate to an NX class ship. So that gives us a bit of flexibility. We can report a ship, fly out, and then we can report our MACOs directly to the ship, and we don't have to ferry back and forth all the time. But what is really interesting about this time location is that it gives us another free play engine, and I'll talk about this in a moment. So we can play a MACO for free. We'll also run Protect the Timeline, which gives us another free play at this location. In this case, it must be a unique personal, so 2 free plays already, but they are both limited. One has to be unique, one has to be a MACO, so they are not always guaranteed free plays because we have to have the right personal in hand. We also have a Starfleet outpost that we can build here at Luna. We can also build it at one of the other missions, but in this case, only this one makes sense because the others are too far away. And this one lets us download UFP One Small Step. Let's put it on the table here. Place on table, your Starfleet personnel may attempt non-Homeworld Federation missions. So that's the card that allows us to attempt these missions. And it has the added bonus, while all your personnel are AU and the same affiliation, each of your personnel and ships are cunning or range +1. So that's a nice bonus against some dilemmas, as long as we stick to Starfleet only and forego the non-alliance. The second part here is irrelevant. Let's go back to more seed cards. We also have assign mission specialists. And our mission specialists here that download the outpost are Danica Erickson with the medical and Dallas with the science. So already 2 useful classifications in play, or skill in case of medical. And as you can see, medical and physics together are only found on this one here. And we have physics on a planet and on a space. But that's about it. So really, they're just there in order to have a little bit of a cushion in case we run into pointless dilemmas. We'll also run a crossover because we're going to play a couple of mirror Starfleet personnel. They are not necessarily key to what we're doing. This is a card that could easily be cut together with the mirror personnel, but they give us some more flexibility in terms of skills and abilities. We have Finally Ready to Swim, which is the key draw engine here. Once every turn when you play a 20-second personal card, you may draw a card. When you play a non-20-second personal or ship, you must discard a card from hand. So unlike the TOS, the Final Frontier engine, this at least allows us to be a bit creative and mix in guys from other eras without having the strict no, you can't do that limit. In this case, it just punishes us for going off the script and playing off-color personnel and so on, or off-era personnel. So that's usually 1 card draw during our turn. We'll also have Quark's isolinear rods as a hidden agenda, mainly because one of our side strategies involves downloading something, and a computer crash could make us very sad. So we have this one in order to nullify or be protected from the computer crash. There's also Launch Bay. This one really is in there because it allows us to grab a tractor beam, which might be important for our ships here, and also emergency evacuation, which lets us save the personnel that are aboard a ship that is about to be destroyed. And it can let us download a shuttle pod and have it land on planets. So a rather versatile card. Again, one that you could cut if you're trying to cram in more dilemmas, but it's quite handy. Defend Homeworld, or something that downloads it, is almost necessary here, because that's a card that allows us to download a security personnel that can download a ship, and then we can jumpstart everything without relying on luck of the draw. And one of the side strategies here is Personal Battle, so we have included 3 copies of Sniper. If you watched the last episode of Tuesday's Dilemma Day, this card has already made an appearance there, and I'm also going to talk about it a bit this time. Okay, that's our setup. I don't think we've forgotten anything. We'll talk about the dilemmas afterwards. We have AQ's 10s, and we have 49 deck cards here, so let's give them a good shuffle, and let's draw our starting 7. So this is what you will usually find: lots of personnel. We can play a MACO for free. So for example, Sasha is money, we can play her for free, immediately triggering a download, a card draw, because she's a 22nd century card. And then we can also free play a unique personal, so maybe the John Frederick Paxton that we've just drawn. And we still have our regular card play. And this is where the text on MACO Training Camp kicks in. So any player who did not seed Earth, something we haven't mentioned before, we cannot run Earth as the Starfleet homeworld as well. Only if we did not seed Earth can we use this MACO reporting thing here. And in place of a normal card play, you may download Military Assault Command Operations, even from this card pile. This is very useful. Let's have a look at this card. Instead of our regular card play, we will download this MACO card here. This is it. We play it, and it says, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may report for free any MACO personal revealed. Place all other cards revealed beneath draw deck. Discard event. And since the time location also allows us to play this from the discard pile, we can get away with only just 1 copy that we download once and put it into the discard pile. There are some cards that can get rid of cards in your discard pile, and that can put a real wrench in your strategy, but it's usually safe to run it unless you have played this deck quite often and people start taking against it. So, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. There is actually a function in Lackey. We can just click reveal to all top 3. And then look here, we find 1 MACO, another MACO, and Markham Reed is not a MACO. So we can play both copies of Nelson Kemper for free, and Markham Reed is then sent to the bottom of our deck. Ideally, we'll find 3 MACOs. About 50% of the cards in the deck are MACOs, so sometimes you hit the checkpoint and you will see 3, sometimes you might only see 1, but usually it's always at least 1 extra personal. And then this one is discarded. So we can get 2 free plays and up to 3 from the MACO card. And then we can also download stuff. So we still have our Defend Homeworld, which we'll also use on the first turn. These guys were not downloads. We played them instead of our regular card play. So the event played for free, and then it allowed us to play them for free, but they are not downloads. This one is. So discard Defend Homeworld to grab a security personal. And the one we're looking for is Maxwell Forrest, because he is the special download of any NX class ship. Let's grab one from the Q's tent, the Columbia. And then we are already set up pretty nicely on our first turn. We have a ship, we have a gold star that we need to starfit, because the MACOs mostly have silver stars, at least the universal ones. So we need a couple non-MACOs for the gold stars in order to make sure we can actually staff the ship. So right now we could put them all in our crew. Let's just do this for the moment. Those are 5 guys we played to the time location. Then Protect the Timeline allows us to travel to the corresponding spaceline location once per turn. And we could immediately grab these guys and start doing a mission. Usually I wait another turn and get another helping of Starfleet personnel before I attempt with this deck. But you can attempt quite aggressively, and if you want to do so on turn 1, that's quite possible. Especially if you also add Temporal Conduit as another way of time travel, because then you can travel to the space line and back to the time location, or vice versa, and are a bit more flexible. Okay, there are a couple of things we want to do on our first turn as well. Launch Bay says, in place of a card draw, you may download 1 shuttle pod to hand. This is something we'll do at the end of the turn. And once per game, you may download Grappler and or Emergency Evacuation. So we'll do that right now. Emergency Evacuation is the card that helps us save a ship or the crew of a ship if it's destroyed. And there's also the Grappler. In this case, Grappler Shuttle Pod Retrieval. There's also another card called simply Grappler. That's an equipment that plays on a ship that gives that one ship tractor beam, and then you can discard it for 5 points at certain missions. This one gives all our Starfleet ships with at least one staffing icon tractor beam, so the Columbia can get rid of a garbage cow if we encounter one. Okay. Let's shuffle this. Let's have a look at what we have in hand for our next turn. We have a unique personal that we can play for free. We have a MACO that we can play for free. So that looks quite good. We'll draw our regular card and we will convert it into the download of one shuttle pod to hand. So let's reveal the deck again. And there should be a... No, that's not it. There should be a shuttle pod somewhere. That's the Sarajevo. Maybe I forgot to include it. Or maybe I put it in the tent. Nope, looks like I forgot to include it. There's the Enterprise, there's the Sarajevo. So ideally there should be a shuttle pod with which you can then land on planets. I'll include it when I upload the deck list and the play-by-play on TrackCC, so there should be an extra card in the deck bringing it to 50 then. Okay, so let's just draw this card. Our second turn, we will usually try and play some skills that we haven't got in play yet. We have Engineer, we have Security. Security will never be a problem because all the MACOs, or most of the MACOs, have it. So already we have 4 Security in play, but there's only 1 Engineer. There's 1 Medical, there's 1 Science. Let's have a look at what Jonathan Archer can give us. Officer and Science is broadcast, for example, on Danica Erickson. And if we look at the guys in play, we see that none of them mention Archer. Archer himself names Daniels and T'Pol, so Danica is the only one who benefits from his skills at the moment. So we probably want more engineers, so we can play Jeremy Lucas, who can let us download stuff. We can play Amanda Cole as MACO, so let's just do that. Let's play Amanda Cole as our free MACO. Let's play Jeremy Lucas as our free unique personal, and the card play will then be a download from the discard pile of Military Assault Command Operations. Reveal top 3. And what have we got here? We've got only 1 MACO and 2 good personal, which we really would want to play, but it will be sent to the bottom of the deck. That's not a big deal though, because we can simply shuffle our deck by triggering one of the downloads, and then we have better chances of finding them again. But we'll take Corporal Scott. We can report them for free. He is a mirror personal, but with the crossover that we've got out, that works nicely. Let's discard it again. So let's have a look at Jeremy Lucas's download. Any medical related equipment. We can trigger this download now, look through our deck, realize no, we don't have a medical related equipment here, never mind, but we can shuffle the deck and get T'Pol and Crewman Soval higher up and not keep them on the bottom of the deck. Then look through the tent and we'll find that we do indeed have a medical related equipment, the Science Pad, which gives all medical classification personnel the extra skill of Science. We'll take that. Okay. Let's put them all in the crew. Then we can fly the ship to here, grab these people, and then on the second turn we can start hitting a mission with 11 personnel. Let's have a look which skills we've got. Sorry, not 11 personnel, 10 personnel and equipment. Here we need engineer and physics. We could also do it with the greed and treachery way because of Paxton. Physics is of course the one we really want to do because we get the mission specialist points there. But as you can see, engineer is a bit of a problem at the moment because it's only on Paxton. The space mission, Fisher Research, it has physics in the requirements, which we have here. And we've got astrophysics, which we can download with Defend Homeworld. So that's a mission that we are guaranteed to have covered as soon as we go out. And it requires 3 alternate universe icons, which is of course trivial because all our guys have it. So that would probably be the mission of choice here. We haven't actually drawn the card for Finally Ready to Swim this turn, I think. So let's just do it again and pretend we haven't forgotten about it. We've got the Enterprise here. At the end of the turn, we would then draw another card. And there we have another engineer. So let's say on our third turn, we play Sean Hawkins as our free MACO. Now we can use the ability to report him or relocate him to an X-class ship after reporting, which is useful. So let's do that. We can also play a unique personnel. Let's take Ethan here. Ethan is a strange card. He has decent skills, but there is also a lot of stuff in his lore. He tried working as a cook, bartender, waiter, fan club president, and student senator before joining Starfleet. So it sounds like a really random list of things that he has done in his life, but a couple of those items are important for certain dilemmas. He is a president, just like the Federation president is a president. He's a student senator, which in the game counts as a senator, like a senator of Romulus. So he has a couple of nice things that can help you against dilemmas in certain situations. And our card play would again be MACO, revealed to all top 3, and this time we don't find anything. So this can happen. We haven't had a lot of luck with MACO. As I said before, the ratios are quite important in this kind of deck. So if you really want to exploit it, you have a deck that is mostly, almost exclusively made up of MACOs, and only a couple of personnel that help bring in certain other skills, and then you can really churn out personnel that have mostly the same skills, but there are some tricks to do missions with them anyway. Okay, so that was a sad military assault command operations. But we could still go on and attempt stuff and try our luck there. We have the emergency evacuation out, so at space missions we could download the escape pod to save our guys and then rescue them with a different ship. And the MACOs also have a couple of useful downloads, for example the security sacrifice, where you can just sacrifice a security guy and save somebody else who was randomly selected to die. There will also be some other downloads, like for example the combat ready cards on Amanda Cole or Sasha Money. And if you just read them in the deck list, you'll see that they have some nice abilities that can help you against certain dilemmas or in certain situations. So you can play personal quite quickly if you draw the right cards. What's really useful here is that you don't need a lot of draw engines. We just have the Finally Ready to Swim to draw 1 extra card. We play 2 personal from our hand for free, and the Military Assault Command Operations comes from the discard pile. So we can play this again. It itself draws the cards and we can report them, so we don't have to worry about adding a lot of draws. There is Hoshi Sato in there 2 or 3 times, and she lets you download We're Ready, which gives you another extra end of turn card draw if you do not have a non-aligned personal play. Remember, this guy is not in play. He's only in play to tell you that you can't play Jonathan Archer, but really that's all that means. Right, let's have a look at the other stuff in the deck. There's Emery Erickson, which can be downloaded by the Sarajevo, the other ship that is in the deck. You can also grab him with Quark's Isolinear Rods if you're in need of an engineer or transporter skill, or his VIP can also come in useful. There's Lower Decks, which can be downloaded by Erika, because you can download a Captain's Order card. We've also got Temporal Almanac in there. You can grab this with Temporal Benefactor. If you read the last 3 lines, once each turn you may place a 22nd century personal from hand beneath draw deck to download to hand Time Pod Ring or a card with Temporal Agent in game text or lore. So Temporal Almanac is a mini draw engine. Once each turn, if you have a Temporal Agent at a time location, so somebody who mentions Jonathan Archer in lore, you can immediately draw 2 cards. But card draw is really not the important thing in this deck. One interesting card here is Out of Time. This can be downloaded in the middle of a mission attempt by Daniels. Out of Time reads, place for free at any time to take up to 3 temporal agents in your discard pile into hand. So if you've lost certain temporal agents, you can grab them back. Or to allow a temporal agent any number of personnel present and your ship he's aboard to time travel between a time location and the corresponding spaceline location. This is useful when you attempt survival training here and you run into a terrible dilemma like neural parasites with a big crew, and you have Daniels in there. He can special download Out of Time in the middle of the mission attempt, and then any number of your personnel present can beam with him into or over to the time location, so into the past, and then they won't be affected by the dilemma. The dilemma will stay there, but you can just send in a sacrificial lamb next time because you know what's coming then. So that's quite a useful card, but it's only useful at this mission here. And ideally you're going for 35 pointers. But if you have 35 with a mission specialist here for 40, 35 with a mission specialist here for another 40, then you can safely attempt survival training. Okay, other interesting cards in the deck. There is Security Drills, plays on table. Name a skill, or 2 skills if you have no cards in hand. Doesn't usually happen. Your MACO personnel may use 2 security as the named skill. So usually you play this when you have seen a wall dilemma that you simply cannot pass. For example, something that requires engineer when you have already lost all your engineering guys. So simply send in a couple of security guys and they can then use their combined brute force to bust through this engineer dilemma. It goes away after 2 turns, so it's really something when you have already seen what you need, and it's not something that you simply play because you suspect there is something that would involve very good guesswork or reading the game. There is a version of Phlox here. If a Starfleet personnel present dies, you may discard 2 cards to return that personnel to hand, which is quite useful, of course. A couple of mirror personnel like Crewman Soval, who simply have very good skills. Chang, Senior Chang, is very good because he gives Other MACOs and attribute bonus. Mayweather is a MACO that works as a mission specialist. His anthropology can be used here. Other than that, he is not necessarily very useful in this deck. Divila has a good skill set, Engineer, Medical, Diplo, Nav, something that is sorely missing in this deck, the Diplo and the Engineer. She can special download Seductive Dance. Read the card, it's worth stocking in the queue's tent in many decks. It's not in this version, but you might as well include it. Same goes for T'Pol. She can special download any interrupt with Vulcan in title or game text, so maybe Vulcan Mind Meld. The tent is very much open to reference. Whatever you find more useful, put it in there. Also, the Warp Speed Transfer on the Columbia is a very interesting card that can more or less let a different ship zoom in, beam over a very good guy that you need to beat a certain dilemma in the middle of the mission attempt. Definitely something that is worth checking out. Markham Reed gives a bonus of attributes all +1 to other security personnel present, and with all the makers we're running, he's very good. Ensign Tamara can special download Regenerate. Again, not something that I've included for the moment, but if you run her, she would allow you to run a very lean deck with maybe only the minimum 30 cards, and you just let your guys die, keep her safe so that you can regenerate your deck. Definitely an option that's worth looking into. Daniel Leonard can allow you to special download another ship to his location. Tucker can download any tricorder. I've put the Vulcan tricorder in because it allows you to gain science or biology or geology. Something that might be useful against certain dilemmas. Okay, but so far for that, that's more or less the solver side of the deck. It can be very quickly. The personal selection that I've put in there, which has about equal number of makers and non-makers, is not as fast as pure maker decks can be, but it has a wider skill selection. I think compared to a pure maker deck, it will probably be a lot slower, because even though they have more generally useful skills, if the Mako deck doesn't run into walls that require those skills, they will just churn out higher number of personnel reliably. So what this deck is trying to do is use a Mako themed dilemma. And that's something that we'll find on the planet. The idea is that our opponent will attempt a planet mission and run into MACO Encounter. Opponent, so we as the MACO player, may download up to 2 MACOs and 1 MACO assault rifle. Any MACOs on planet may, if possible, so if a leader is present, initiate personal battle. So if you know Sleeper Trap, then this works similarly, with the difference that here we can only download 2 guys. So let's have a look at the deck. We need 1 MACO, and ideally we'll go for one that has leadership or officer, otherwise we cannot attack the opponent. And then simply grab a different MACO that has a lot of attributes or good skills or whatever. Unlike Sleeper Trap, we don't need to grab a universal personnel, but we can also download unique ones. So let's have a look which ones we want. Jeremiah Hayes would be an option. He's got officer. Corporal Scott has strength 7 for the moment. If we have already downloaded lower decks, he would be a 9. And we have many other options here. Chang would give us a +1. Let's just grab Corporal Scott here. And 1 MACO assault rifle. We've got 1 in hand. There's another one in the deck. In the queue's tent. Giving these guys +3. So we could attack. Private Brown would be strength 11. Corporal Scott with the lower decks and the gun would be 12. So that's probably not enough to get in a kill to mortally wound an opponent, unless we are very lucky in the pairings. But that's why we are running the snipers. Now, the sniper works like this. At the start of each battle you initiate, so our opponent encounters this dilemma, we download our guys, and then we decide to initiate battle. And then at the start of the battle, if you have a phaser or disruptor present, the MACO assault rifle is a phaser rifle. It says so in the lore, generic phaser rifle. Then we may target one personal present, and it's cumulative. That is, we can download up to, we can target up to 3 personnel. We could go for the ones with the highest strength, which would never be a bad idea, or we could also target skills that the following dilemmas require. For example, if this is our lead-in dilemma, and then we have something like scientific method as one of the following dilemmas, we could try and see if there are any science personnel present. We target them with sniper, and then all of these copies will probe. Immediately probe, meaning reveal the top card of your deck, and then you check if that revealed card has certain icons. And then you go through this list on sniper one by one. You start with the staffing icon, check if that is there. You continue with the carousel icon, the equipment icon, the marquee icon. If any of these is found on the probe card, all these guys are mortally wounded. In Lackey, there is actually a probe function. So you just click probe, reveal the card, and as you can see, we immediately hit the first icon here, the staffing icon, which is why there are so many MACOs with the staffing icon in there. They give us very good odds of triggering the first probe function on sniper to mortally wound the target. If we don't hit that icon, all but one of the cards in our deck have the alternate universe icon, which would still stun the targeted personnel. And there is only one card in the deck here, the where is it? The one that allows us to replace skills. There it is, the security drills. That's the only card in the 49 card deck here that would discard all copies of this incident. So if you already have it in hand, you don't have to worry about this at all. You could also play it safe and have a 100% chance of not having to discard the sniper by just getting rid of that card, but it's very useful against dilemmas, so I'll run with one copy. So what does that mean if we stun or mortally wound somebody at the beginning of a personal battle? That means these guys cannot participate in the battle. They will not be used in the pairing up. So 3 guys will either be stunned, or chances are very good that, I think it works out to about 66 or 70%, that they will actually be mortally wounded. So even before we pair up, we have effectively killed 3 guys. Then these 2 MACOs with the gun should be strong enough to at least win the fight, without mortally wounding, but at least win the fight, stunning 2 more personnel, and then they contribute their remaining strength against whatever remains of the opposing force. And even with 2 guys and the gun, you can win battles against an away team of 7 or 8 that started if you hit the sniper. And then potentially 3 kills from the sniper, a 4th kill from winning the personal battle. And of course, that means that the opponent is stopped for this turn. The mission attempt doesn't continue if the entire away team battled. Meaning we can attack on our own turn if we have these guys on the planet and potentially wipe out the remaining away team. And this is a combination, of course, that we want to play at 2 planets. Now, due to the OTF rules that say that you cannot download personnel more than once per turn. This is a little bit tricky, because if your opponent has enough personnel in play that they run into this dilemma at one planet, they might well suspect that you play this on a different planet as well, and then they will just send somebody over, attempt that planet, run into that same dilemma, and then you can't actually download your MACOs because you have already downloaded guys. So that's the correct way of playing against this strategy. So what you're trying to do is make sure that your opponent doesn't face those two dilemmas, or can't face those two dilemmas at the same time. Maybe at one mission using it as the first dilemma, at a different mission hiding it behind a wall, or simply spreading them out so far that it's unlikely that your opponent will be at both those missions with personnel at the same time. But sometimes you simply cannot avoid it. So that's the main strategy. Killing lots of guys and then having personnel on the planet. You could, of course, also use something like Smoke Bomb that allows you to stop an opponent's away team if you have guys present with them. So if they bring in more people to punch up your guys, you can just play the Smoke Bomb interrupt and say, nope, these guys are stopped, thank you very much. But those would all be bad probes for the sniper, or at least there would be stun cards, but not mortally wound cards. The rest of the dilemmas are very generic, mostly cards that require different sets of skills that you can then filter out with the snipers and hopefully reduce the amount of a certain skill that your opponent has in play to the point where they struggle very much getting through one of the missions, or where it costs them a lot of time to ferry in reinforcements from their reporting locations, and so on. So I've been badly hit by sniper decks in the past. I haven't played it myself in a very long time. I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago where I tried it in an online tournament. Didn't know exactly how it worked with multiple copies, but I've checked with the rule master earlier this week, who confirmed that yes, you only probe once for all the copies you have in play. So if you see a lot of hidden agendas and you know that your opponent is playing a faction that has one of the dilemmas that lets them download guys that attack, like Cardassians with Sleeper Trap, or Klingons with the new Klingon troop deployment, I think it's called, or these MACOs here, the sniper might, or multiple snipers might be an option that you need to have in your calculations when you go into a mission. All right, so there's a lot of improvement of this kind of deck. This is really just a first draft. I will still put up the list and the walk through the play-by-play of the first couple of turns. But if you want to look at successful decks like these, have a look at MACO Training Camp in the TrackCC database and have a look at decks that have already used this card. You will find ones by Neil Matthew, Handles Execution on the boards, who played a very nice deck of this. I think Justin Ford also had a version. Ausgang, who runs the Snack Track channel, also played a MACO deck and beat me with it at one point. So these are all different options. Check them out and see if you find a version that you find more appealing than this. But it's definitely something that you can check out. For next week, I'm trying to run a very, very seed light deck. That means I'm trying to keep it to 6 non-dilemma seed cards and have space for 24 dilemmas. So really something that you can where you can just churn out personal, maybe use your card plays to draw stuff, but it's probably going to be a TNG solver. We've had original series, now we had Kazon, we had all kinds of 24th century stuff. So I'm trying to have 24th century with the original TNG flavor that is using a lot of premier cards and cards in that vein. So hope you enjoy this. If you like this channel, please leave a like and subscribe or leave a comment. And if you have any suggestions for decks you'd like to see in the future, as always, let me know. Thanks for watching. Until next week. Bye bye.